years ago. It appears that as of yesterday, the peer-to-peer file-sharing software called LimeWire is dead. Now, in a 4-year-old case brought by the Recording Industry Association of America, a U.S. judge ruled that LimeWire's users commit a substantial amount of copyright infringement. Now, the company hadn't taken any meaningful steps to mitigate that infringement, and the damages to the music industry amount to over $1 billion. Now, we won't know how much LimeWire is going to have to pay until January, but for users, yesterday marked the day that the website officially was forced to shutter its file-sharing services. Now, to make clear just how large LimeWire's reach had extended over the years, it's been estimated that its software was downloaded 200 million times. Now, the website now, if visited, offers a few thoughts from the CEO, entitled Dark Clouds and Silver Linings. He reveals his disappointment, the sadness, but also the promise that their team of technologists are creating a new service for users to look forward to. But how should we really look at this? Is this proof that record labels are winning this war, that file sharing as we know it is over? Or is this just a small battle, a single victim in a world full of BitTorrent sites that are going to keep adapting and changing faces? Well, here to discuss it with me is Casey Ray Hunter, Communications Director and Policy Strategist for the Future of Music Coalition. Casey, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, tell me how you look at this, because some people are just crying, oh my God, the end of LimeWire, this is the death of file sharing. Do you see it that way?
Well, you have to remember that the technology that LimeWire was built on is kind of agnostic in terms of legal or illegal. The way it was used clearly was to, by some and by many to, collect unauthorized music and share music that they didn't have the rights to. It's important, though, to understand that this case has been kind of wending its way through courts for quite a while.
Well, about 4 years.
Exactly.
People have been already anticipating this. You could say that it's not exactly the biggest shocker, but this is something that I found funny, right? As I was reading a lot of articles about it today, and I was reading some of the commentary. I wanted to see what readers, what users had to say, and a lot of people were like, LimeWire still exists? I mean, that just shows you how quickly these technologies adapt. Instantly, there are a million articles pointing you to alternatives to LimeWire. There's FrostWire, there's uTorrent, Aries, Songer. I mean, there's a million of these things popping up. So clearly, I mean, does this mean to you that the recording industry is losing the battle, that they just can't keep up?
Well, it's very difficult to keep up. I mean, shutting down LimeWire is kind of like sending cops to bust a high school party that was over 10 years ago, and now it's just beer cans laying around. The action has clearly moved elsewhere. A lot of rights holders are concerned about not necessarily the download or torrent sites and services, which are very, very difficult to keep up with because they are so decentralized. But they're going after things that they can hopefully keep better track of, and those would be overseas sites that stream media, oftentimes television and movies, but music can exist there too, and they make their money through advertising. So, well,
that definitely, you bring up an interesting point here, because there is some legislation that's trying to be pushed through where they can actually go after sites that allow copyright infringement in other countries. I mean, that's what they're trying to do, which brings up a lot of questions. I mean, is this America's place? Can they extend their reach that far just because someone in America owns the content? Can you go after people internationally?
Well, the tension between, copyright, intellectual property, and the Internet, has kind of existed since the birth of the Internet, and the bandwidth, became, robust enough to carry larger files. And yeah, I mean, the United States is going to try to protect its interests overseas, just like it would with any other form of intellectual property. Copyright is no different. It's very, very difficult because the Internet knows no geographic boundaries. So you have to look for ways to arm, the legal establishment and the justice establishment with the tools to take care of some of this. And obviously some people will agree or disagree on the level, nature, and application of those tools.
Well, I think that's because perhaps, the track record for the ways of looking for things to create new laws and subvert them isn't exactly the cleanest one, I guess. But, the other question here that we have to bring up is, let's face it, people don't want to have to pay for music. I mean, especially with my generation, your generation, this was the normal thing before iTunes really popped up. I mean, I don't think you know anybody that didn't at some point in their life download a song. So shouldn't it be the recording industry then that adapts to that has to just go along with it instead of continuing to fight the battle, like you said, always 10 steps, 10 years behind its opponent?
It's a bit like whack-a-mole, and it looks like whack-a-mole if you look at the history of infringing sites and takedowns and shutdowns and so on and so forth. You mentioned something that I think was key to this, and that's iTunes. With the appearance of iTunes, you suddenly have the possibility of a legitimate digital music marketplace. And to some degree, technology is not the enemy. You need to be able to innovate on a platform, and you need to be able to come up with these kinds of services that can, at the end of the day, reward the creators. Because let's face it, it's the people who make the music that we care about here.
But
it's not the
iTunes is
label.
kind of the exception here. I mean, if you look at Napster, who then tried to legitimize its form of business, it didn't really become a success. And here, LimeWire was asking for the same thing, and the court didn't actually allow them, to go in that direction. So it's.
The model that LimeWire was using, infringe now and go legit later, it seems like it's just over. I don't think anyone could get the venture capital to build something like LimeWire and have it take off in the marketplace and then go, knock on the label's door and say, okay, we're ready to be legitimate now because everyone's using our service. I think, though, beyond iTunes, there are all kinds of unique and completely legal and licensed ways to access music, and we're going to see more of them because of, the rise of mobile technology as well. And eventually, it could be possible that piracy, for music anyway, would become more of a thing of the past because the convenience and the price point would allow more people to participate.
Well, I think that, if it becomes cheaper, more convenient, then maybe they have a shot. Thanks so much for being here, Casey.
Absolutely.